Imagine a castle that has burned to the ground 5 times in 600 years and risen every single time in brilliant vermilion-red. A palace that was never quite Japanese and never quite Chinese, but something entirely its own. The beating heart of a seafaring kingdom that traded across the whole of East Asia, while the rest of the country looked inward. Today, you stand on a hill above the sea in Okinawa, where master craftsmen are once again coaxing that red phoenix back to life, one lacquered beam at a time. This is one of the rare places on Earth where you don't just see history, you watch it being rebuilt right in front of you. Welcome to Walking Tour of Japan, a podcast dedicated to bringing you a new adventure somewhere in Japan with every episode. Each week we'll travel to a different destination, from ancient temples and stunning gardens to fascinating cities, historic landmarks, and hidden gems tucked away across this incredible country. If you're gearing up for your own trip, head over to northstartravelers.com, where you'll find gear recommendations to help you travel smarter, plus a full list of our other podcast shows covering destinations around the world. If you love discovering new places and planning your next adventure, follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving a positive review goes a long way in helping others find it. Now let's explore Japan. Our walk begins at the top of a gentle slope in the old district of Shuri, the historic heart of Naha, standing in front of a gate quite unlike anything else in Japan. It rises across the road ahead of you like a graceful wooden arch, 2 tiers of red-tiled roof balanced on slender painted columns with a carved wooden plaque hanging at its center. This is the Shureimon, and the characters on that plaque announce that you are entering a land of propriety, a kingdom that prized courtesy and ceremony above almost everything else. You may have seen this gate before without realizing it. For years, its image was printed on the 2,000 yen note issued to mark the new millennium. Take a moment here before you pass beneath it. Notice how the design leans toward Chinese gateway architecture rather than the heavy fortress-like timber gates you find on the mainland. That blend, Chinese grace softened by an island sensibility, is the first hint of what made this place so different from anywhere else in the country. Walk through now, and as you do, glance to your left. Tucked just off the path is a small stone gateway with a weathered, dignified presence. Don't look for a way through it. You're not meant to pass beneath this one. It's a sacred gate built nearly 500 years ago, where the king once stopped to pray for safe travels before setting out on his journeys around the islands. Beyond it lies a sacred grove, a place of worship the local people have honored for centuries. This little stone structure is one of the very few things in front of you that is genuinely old. It survived war and fire and was restored, and it carries a UNESCO World Heritage designation today. Most of what you'll see ahead, by contrast, is reconstruction, and that distinction is the key to understanding this entire site. Continue along the path, and you reach the first of the great gates that lead up into the castle itself. This is the Welcome Gate, and the name is deliberate. Centuries ago, envoys arrived here all the way from the Chinese imperial court, and this gate was named to greet them. Look at how it's built. A solid stone arch cut cleanly through the wall, with a wooden watchtower perched on top, painted in that same deep red. On either side, a pair of stone lions stand guard. The shisa, those wide-eyed guardian figures you'll see all over Okinawa, set here to ward off evil. Run your eyes along the massive stone walls curving away on both sides. They don't run straight, they bend and fold back on themselves, and the gates sit at angles to one another. That was no accident. An attacker who breached one gate would find himself funneled into a tight exposed turn, with defenders waiting above. It's a fortress disguised as a palace. Just past the gate, off to your right, pause at a small spring set into the stonework. Water trickles from a carved dragon's head, a stone spout brought from China 5 centuries ago, into a basin below. This was once one of the castle's main sources of fresh water, and the kingdom was so proud of its purity that they lined the approach with stone tablets, each one inscribed with praise written by visiting envoys who had tasted it. Take the little moment most visitors rush past and imagine the ceremony of it. Dignitaries from across the sea pausing here to drink, then composing poetry about the water. In a kingdom built on diplomacy and trade, even a drinking fountain became an act of statecraft. From here, the path climbs a flight of broad stone steps, and at the top stands a second gate, different in character from the first. Instead of a stone arch, this one is a wooden gatehouse stretched across a gap in the wall, a turret sitting squarely on top with a horizontal plaque at its center. As you pass through, you're crossing from the outer ring of defenses into the inner world of the court. Keep climbing, and you come to a third gate, this one tied to the rhythm of palace life itself. It once held a water clock, used to mark the passing hours, and it earned a second nickname too, the Palanquin Gate. High officials would arrive here carried on the shoulders of their bearers, and even the most senior among them had to step down at this point and continue on foot. Beyond this line, everyone walked. Everyone showed deference. You're walking the same approach the kingdom's ministers walked, shedding rank with every gate. One more gate brings you to the place where, in the old days, business was conducted, and where today you'll pass the ticket window to enter the paid inner grounds. This is worth a practical word. There's a generous free area you've already been enjoying, but the inner courtyards and the main hall lie beyond this point, and your admission goes directly toward the rebuilding effort. Step through, and the space opens up into a lower courtyard, a broad paved terrace that once buzzed with the everyday work of running a kingdom. Ahead of you stands the final gate on the climb, the gate to honor the gods. And beyond it lies the place this whole long approach has been building toward. Pass through that last gate, and the main courtyard spreads out before you. Stop here and take it in. The pavement beneath your feet is laid in bold stripes of red and white, and those stripes weren't decorative, they were a seating chart. On great ceremonial days, court officials lined up along them in strict order of rank, facing forward, while the king presided from the hall ahead. Picture it filled, rows of officials in flowing robes, banners, the hush before a royal audience, the whole hierarchy of the kingdom made visible in colored stone. This courtyard was the stage on which the Ryukyu Kingdom performed its own grandeur. And now raise your eyes to the building at the head of the courtyard, the main hall. For 4.5 centuries, a great red palace stood on this spot, the political, diplomatic, religious, and cultural center of an entire kingdom. The hall you're looking at is the reason the world held its breath one autumn morning in 2019. In the pre-dawn dark of the 31st of October that year, a fire broke out in the main hall and burned for some 11 hours. By the time it was out, the hall and the buildings flanking it were gone, and with them hundreds of irreplaceable artifacts. It was the 5th time in the castle's history that its heart had been destroyed, by fire, by war, and most catastrophically of all in 1945, when the Battle of Okinawa reduced the entire complex to rubble. Okinawans wept openly that morning. People across Japan and around the world watched the sky over Naha glow red. But here is the remarkable part, and the reason this is such an extraordinary time to be standing where you are. Within months of the fire, donations poured in, billions of yen from school children and pensioners and strangers half a world away. The kingdom had been gone for well over a century, yet its castle still belonged to everyone, and rather than hide the rebuilding behind hoardings, the people restoring it made a bold choice. They put the work itself on display, under the idea of a reconstruction you can see. So depending on exactly when you visit, you may be looking at scaffolding, at craftsmen high on the framework, at the great vermilion pillars catching the subtropical light. The exterior of the hall was unveiled in the summer of 2025, its red lacquer and dragon-crowned roof gleaming once more with the full interior opening, including a faithful recreation of the king's throne, planned for the autumn of 2026 and a grand completion ceremony to follow. Look closely at that roof. The dragon ornaments crowning it were rebuilt from fragments pulled out of the ashes, three-dimensionally scanned, then carved again by hand from the same island limestone. The red roof tiles were fired from Okinawan clay using methods passed down for generations. The pillars wear more than 30 coats of traditional lacquer. You are not looking at a copy, you are looking at a living act of cultural memory. And this is the thing worth holding on to here. The soul of this place was never really the timber and lacquer. Those have burned and been replaced again and again. What endures is the determination to rebuild, the sense shared across an entire island that as long as this red palace can rise on its hill, the Ryukyu spirit endures with it. When you understand that, the scaffolding stops being a disappointment and becomes the most moving thing on the site. Before you leave the inner grounds, follow the wall to the eastern viewing platform, the highest point in the complex. Most visitors are so focused on the main hall that they hurry past the spot, which is a shame because the reward is one of the finest views in all of Naha. From up here, the whole city tumbles down toward the harbor, the red-tiled roofs giving way to the blue of the East China Sea beyond. On a clear day, you can see why the kings built here. This hill commanded the land, the city, and the sea routes that made the kingdom rich. Catch it in the soft light of late afternoon, and it's unforgettable. A quiet tip if you have the freedom to choose your timing. Come early in the morning, soon after the gates open before the tour groups arrive. You'll have the courtyards nearly to yourself, the light is gentle, and in the warmer months, you'll beat the heat that builds through the middle of the day. And remember that the closing hour shifts with the seasons, earlier in winter, later in high summer, so it's worth checking before you plan a sunset visit. Stand here a moment longer before we head back down. Think about what this hill has witnessed. 500 years of kings and envoys, a kingdom that punched far above its size by trading and negotiating rather than conquering, then occupation, devastating war, and 5 separate destructions of the very heart you've just walked through. And every time, it has come back. The castle you're visiting is, in a sense, always becoming itself. There's something deeply hopeful in that, a reminder that the things we lose are not always lost forever, and that some places are kept alive less by their stones than by the love of the people who refuse to let them go. When you make your way back down, there are some wonderful places to eat just a short walk from the gates. For the classic local bowl, Shuri Soba is a beloved institution serving rich, clear broth Okinawa soba with melt-in-your-mouth pork. Expect a line and note it's cash only. Nearby, Ukaji Soba keeps things simple and excellent, open daily with a few standout desserts alongside the noodles. For a more refined sit-down experience, Sui Dunchi serves traditional Okinawan and Ryukyuan court-style cuisine in a beautiful old building with a garden, right on the historic stone-paved road. If you want something quick and casual, PICO sits right by the monorail station and does a famous taco rice, that uniquely Okinawan fusion dish, along with terrific chicken wings. And for a gentle rest, without leaving the castle grounds, the Shuri Castle Teahouse offers a lovely set of traditional Ryukyuan sweets and tea on tatami mats, the perfect place to catch your breath. If you have more time in the area, there's a cluster of remarkable sites within easy reach. Just downhill from the castle runs the Kinjo-cho stone-paved road, a beautifully preserved stretch of 16th century paving lined with old houses and stone walls, one of the most atmospheric walks in the city. A short distance away lies the royal mausoleum, Tamaudun, a vast and solemn stone tomb where generations of Ryukyu kings were laid to rest. It's a World Heritage Site in its own right and far quieter than the castle. A little farther out, the garden villa of Shikina-en offers a rare and exquisite example of Ryukyuan landscape gardening, with a pond, an arched stone bridge, and a royal retreat that feels worlds away from the city. And right beside the castle approach, the man-made pond of Ryutan, dug 6 centuries ago, makes a peaceful loop for an early morning stroll before the crowds arrive. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination, leave us a positive review to help others find the show, and share this episode with someone who loves exploring Japan. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond Japan, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next walk.